Pontiac. We like it. Top goes down. Face to face. Sean Spins asks, favorite punk favorites. What are the punk favorites, Russ? Sean Spins, you got to check out his channel, by the way. Link in the description. Also, the vinyl love community, or send vinyl. Yeah, we should get on that, Sean. I'll link an email or something in here, and I'll send you a record. You send me one, and I don't know. It was the vinyl love community, vinyl community love train. That's it. It took me a minute to get all my acronyms circulating in my mind. On to the topic. What is some punk favorites? Green Day, that album I shared, big one. I love Green Day. I like the pop punk stuff. I do. Green Day is interesting because these guys were really good. They could harmonize, right, and melodic melodies in punk rock songs. They were making hits. I'm not a part of a redneck agenda. And it's funny how, like, punk rock for me is a sort of a anti-authority sort of music. It's like there's no right way kind of music, right? Today, I see being punk as like being kind to other people, like kind of being a jerk or dismissive or cutting people off in traffic, being angry and road raging. Like everyone's doing that, it seems now. So for me, like kindness today seems more punk rock than the norm. It's against the norm. To define punk, Urban Dictionary defined punk with a little story. A kid walks up to me and asks, "What's punk?" So I kick over a garbage can and say, "That's punk." And then the kid walks over across the street. He kicks over another garbage can and goes, "That's punk?" And I would say, "No, that's trending, right? It's been done. It's not punk." So that's a good kind of working definition of what punk is. There's philosophical punk. There's, just music. Someone save us from Punk Rock 101. Music that's punk. What is punk music? Let's go! Let's go! It's funny how they talk about prog rock. Prog rock is a big thing, especially with younger folks who are collecting vinyl, like into Rush. Cheap Trick and these bands, progressive rock, right? And punk is very much like that. It's progressive, but it's not necessarily popular, which brings me right back around full circle to a band like Green Day. Punk rock, I believe, had a resurgence. Yeah, the 70s, I would go back to the Ramones, love the Ramones. Back in the 70s, early 80s, you had like the Clash, New York Dolls, another great punk band from that time. Black Flag was a big one. Got into Black Flag a little bit, like hesitantly. It's like scary music. Like, who was this band, Black Flag? Henry Rollins, this interesting cat. Get yourself a break from self-rejection, try some introspection. Bad Brains, there's another one. This is some of the genesis of punk rock, man. Bad Brains released an album, Into Light or something. Attitude is on that album. I love that song. I love Bad Brains. Rick Ocasek from The Cars actually produced that album for Bad Brains. They're from Washington, D.C. D.C. had a lot of really good punk rock, as you would imagine, being our nation's capital, the center of government shenanigans. Did you have a question? Power to the people, you know, that kind of thing. Those kinds of messages. Just the pushback on authority. And some of that, I believe, is really healthy. We need that. Every new generation refreshes the world. Some more 80s favorites from my toolbox. The Dead Kennedys. You gotta love the Dead Kennedys. Holiday in Cambodia. There's a whole movie about that. Sonic Youth, 1981. 80s Sonic Youth. That album, debut album, great. Joy Division, Bauhaus. I had to stop by work and grab a tool or two. Some more punk favorites that I've been into lately. The Casualties. These guys considered what? Gutter punk? I don't know. Here's a Midwestern punk band that I've been into lately. The Hex Tales. The Interrupters. I love the Interrupters. Yes, T-Mobile did a commercial. It was like ad campaign. They played their song over and over again. And I'm like, I had to cringe a little bit. But I get it, man. These bands got to make money. So Interrupters in a T-Mobile ad. Okay. Their favorite Irish punk rock band from Belfast. Stiff Little Fingers. If I pretended I was fine. Yeah, man. Some of Face to Face's music resonates with my soul. No authority. Hey, this is weird. It's just a motorcycle engine randomly thrown by the wayside. During the grunge time, here in the Seattle area, punk rock met metal. And I believe that's the hybrid that created that Seattle sound, that grunge rock music. So punk was very much alive. Bands like Mudhoney. Back in the day, the Melvins. Was it punk? It was just different. We're kind of away from a lot of other cities up here, you know. We've got Vancouver, who neighbors us to the north in Canada, but south of us is Portland, you know, and then you don't have a lot of major cultural, at least in the 70s and 80s, a lot of bands didn't come out. It was just too far to drive, you know. If you were in a van or whatever, you have to cross mountains, or, you know, just coming up the coast, there's still the Cascade Mountains. You're gonna have to contend with higher elevations. My point is, we didn't have a lot. We had a kind of a closed system here in the Seattle area that generated that kind of music, and also it's, you know, I remember Dave Grohl talking about this, like this drizzly, pissing rain, just most of the weather, most of the time. It's gray like this. It's not cheery weather. It's kind of dreary, and a lot of us have what's called SAD, seasonal affective disorder. We take vitamin D. I take vitamin D supplements, seriously, because I live here where it's dark a lot. It's cloudy. It's just gray 9 months out of the year, and I'm out of coffee. We consume a majority, seems like, of coffee in this country. Some of the best coffee roasters are here in Seattle and Portland, by the way. But I digress. Getting back to punk rock, my favorite early, I mean, the Ramones, just love the Ramones. I first heard the Ramones and like, oh my God, what is that? You know, the Misfits back in the 80s, another one, and Danzig kind of came right from Misfits. But grunge rock happened, and then as it started to pass in popularity, you had the punks in the late 90s, early 2000s. There was a pretty cool resurgence of punk rock around that time, which was really cool. And this produced a lot of other great bands that I love. Mxpx, local band here, the Seattle area band here, came from that time. Chick Magnet was that was about when MTV, right before MTV went to just playing reality shows, right?
Well, he's a chick magnet, if you know what I mean.
When MTV still played music, you know, mid to late 90s, Mxpx had a hit with Chick Magnet. But a lot of their stuff is punk. They're a punk band.
I'm still standing.
And it's not always like sad punk. Like there's some upbeat stuff on there. They're on a Christian label, not necessarily Christian music. You know, you look at an album cover like They, and they're anyway. Those guys are great. I actually know a guy, my friend Jeff Betger's in another band. He actually toured with Mxpx. They opened for Mxpx during the Teenage Politics tour, which I guess is one of their most successful albums. His band was called 90 Pound Wuss, and if you get a chance to put them in your Spotify, it's really good. I like their first record. Jeff tends to love their third album the most. It's fast punk, but also melodic.
Something must break, something must break, something must break.
And hey, look, the sun came out. It doesn't rain forever. Another great band from the 90s that had some great music. Female singer, incredibly talented. Would have been up there with some of the best Seattle bands, I believe. And very punk. They moved here from the Ohio area and just started tearing up the Seattle music scene. Lead singer Mia Zapata was actually murdered in 1993. There's a film about it. I'll include it in the description. It's a tragic story. And I asked around, my friend Sean from Sean Spins, he did a album review type of thing he does on his channel about the Gits, and I'll link that in the end screen here. I asked around on the message boards, the Seattle music scene message boards out there, and asked if any of the surviving members of the Gits, what they're doing. And one guy said that Steve from the legendary Gits is in a band in Oakland, California called Wolves in Argyle, and Andy is in Portland, and he does various things with other bands, kind of a hired gun, as it were. Another guy was commenting on the fact that his wife was pregnant around the time of all this happening, and the Gits and their success, and then the tragic loss of Mia. And he said his first wife, she was pregnant, and they were going to the OBGYN, right, the baby doctor, and his name was Mr. Zapata. So every time they would go in, you know, see Mr. Zapata, and he would think of the couple, that both of them, they would think of Mia. So, and her name is Mia. That was a really cool story, that they named their daughter Mia because the doctor's name was Mr. George Zapata. So it almost brings tears to my eyes, you know, stories like that. And yeah, so that's it, man. I'm gonna end this. There's so many favorites. What do you do? I threw some out there, but I could go on and on. Love punk rock. I'm an old punk guy from back in the day. But yeah, if you want to do the whole vinyl community love train thing, that's my email address. No, I'm not going to spam you. I'm not looking for a pen pal or anything like that. It's simply a way where I'm not putting my address out there on the interwebs for everyone to see. So we can, you know, send records or old media, vintage physical media back and forth, if you'd like. You know what to do. I'm not gonna tell you what to do in this video. That's not very punk. So subscribe or don't. You know what? Don't subscribe. Don't even like this video. That's what everybody else does. That's what they all say. Thanks for watching.
Seattle, to rock the house. The kids.
Side of the crab is coming after you. I don't know which way to go from here. I don't know what's up there.